colored man saying, Miss Dlamini, you have a lung infection because of the COVID. And I'm like, lung infection. Okay, most that means you're going to treat it and I'm going to go home. And I'm like, okay, doc, thanks. So what does that mean? It means I'm going to have to check if we have a bed in high care or ICU. And we're going to have to admit you right away. I'm like, okay, cool. Can I like let my family know? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, I'll call your family. Give me your sister's number. Give me your mom's number. I'll call them and I'll let them know. The next thing I remember, he came back about maybe 5 minutes later. Miss Dlamini, I've informed your family. Like while the doctor is talking, now the nurses are running around. And I think for me, it hadn't sunk that I'm literally at the verge of my lungs collapsing because this infection has spread so much over the last couple of weeks. So I think the doctor told one of the nurses what's going on. They talk about we're gonna have to intubate her. I'm like, you don't or what is like what's that's the last thing I remember. They grabbed my phone. I think the last thing I remember is the nurse taking my phone while the doctor is telling me that he's informed my family, and the doctor saying we're going to have to intubate her. And then it was me bad. How? Okay. Then next thing I wake up, I mean, there's like a lot of people around me. I'm not sure what's going on. Then someone, I guess one of the nurses says, Miss Dlamini, you are where in ICU at this hospital. You've been admitted with COVID pneumonia. Okay. Now, in being intubated is basically a tube that goes into your, I think it's in between your lungs, and it sits on the outside of, there's a part of it that sits on the outside of your mouth. It's then connected to the ventilator. So I was on a ventilator, and before waking up I had been on a coma. So the doctor then, well, my sister now tells me when I was out that like wouldn't even get a chance to consent or to have a say in the coma that they were going to induce. You were in the coma, and we were like worried, say, is she even gonna wake up from this coma? How does somebody leave home, going to the GP, next thing she's sleeping in a coma? How does that work, you know? Anyway, then I guess they informed my parents, and I guess that must have been such a scary thing, calling my parents. I don't know how my sister did it. Maybe one day I'll invite her for an episode to share and to just to like give her side of the story, being on the receiving end. Because for me, for that 6 weeks, I was focusing on getting better, focusing on what I'm being told. I wasn't privy to what's happening on the outside. I knew that people were worried, but now when people tell me what was actually happening, I'm like, hey, I don't know how Ufanele did this. And yeah, I don't know if it would be, if I would have been able to, yeah, but anyway. So anyway, there's a ventilator attached to your mouth. Do not touch it. Do not touch this tube. Should you touch it, you are going to die, basically. Don't pull it, don't, you know, because this thing is connecting you to the machine. The machine is keeping you alive. You are not breathing by yourself. I'm not breathing by myself. What do you mean? Fitness bunny. Jani, me who runs 21 kilometers in under 3 hours. I'm not breathing by myself. What is the meaning of this? There's no way. Then they're like, Sissy, they explain all of that, and then I'm like, okay, cool, it is what it is. And funny enough, people have asked me, do you remember anything while you were in the coma? I'm like, no, I don't remember anything. The journey in hospital was quite an emotionally taxing one. Emotionally taxing, physically taxing. I was high on medication for 90% of the time. my physio actually, who, and it's so nice that I'm still in contact with people who either treated me or people who saw me while I was in that state, because it's something that has never happened to anyone close to me, has never happened to me. I've always been healthy, I've always been on top of my game basically, but I spent 40 plus days being almost helpless, and I spent 40 days in ICU being treated for this COVID pneumonia that had severely spread through my lungs. My lungs had to be given a recession for them to rest and for the ventilator to do what it needs to do, because my lungs, I couldn't breathe on my own at the time. Then one of the key things that I remember was how mentally aware I was. So I was one of the people, I think at some point I was the only person who was alert or conscious. Conscious is the word. Everybody else was either sedated, because I was seeing like everything, and a lot of the doctors who would walk past, they would say, we've never seen a patient who's so alert and so bubbly while on a ventilator. And I think that speaks to who I am as a person. If people could pick up my personality when I couldn't even speak, when I couldn't even communicate other than hello, thank you, thank you, come here, you know, that was my communication, I think, for like 3 weeks. I was like, come here, and I actually don't remember how I was communicating before I started writing, because the girl was a writer in hospital. I would write everything, and the first day I carried a pen, they asked me to write down my mom's number. We had social workers, oh bless their souls, those people, like, and I cannot imagine what those 6 weeks would have been like if I had no communication with my family, and what it would have been like for them if they had no communication with me, because at that time we're in the middle of the second wave. Hospitals were not allowing visitors, and I think even if they were allowing visitors, the COVID unit was not allowed to have visitors. People, doctors and nurses were covered in PPE, and it's just you and the same people every day. Nurses would change shifts and stuff, but you're seeing the same group of people for 6 weeks, and you don't know how your parents are, you don't know if they are coping, they don't know how you are. All they are hearing is it's either she's recovering from the medication, she's the same as yesterday, she's doing well, which is something that they are hearing telephonically. So I'm really grateful for those social workers.